And I just want to make sure that I am live. So I am just going to double check this here real quick. It looks like we were having an issue. Oh, there we go. Looks like we are live. So if you are watching this live, I want you to say hi. Tell me who you are, where you're from. Well, I'll know who you are, but where you're from so that we can see who is joining us here. We're broadcasting to a lot of different channels right now because we feel like this is something that we really feel like the world needs to hear at this exact moment. So if you want more information around this live show, come check out divinelydrivenresults.com. But let's dive right into our topic here today. And that is being grateful for our trials. How in the world are we supposed to do that, right? Especially when you're in that moment where you're just so bogged down in that trial. And we are all extremely familiar with trials. That is what this life is. It seems like it's all about. What this world seems like it's all about is just a bunch of different trials, one after another. And luckily that if we focus on them, then they get worse. But if we don't focus on them as much, then they're a little bit easier to kind of stand. So as I was really diving into the scriptures and asking the Lord how I can best serve my amazing Christian women entrepreneur friends and others as well, of how to be able to be grateful for our trials, the Lord took me to our biblical success principle, which is in 1 Peter 1:7. And it says that the trial of your faith, being much more precious than of gold that perisheth, that though it be tried with fire, sometimes it feels like that, might be found unto praise and honor and glory at the appearing of Jesus Christ. Now, I love this concept because, who thinks that the trial of your faith is much more precious than gold, right? Like if we had like a gold bar in one hand and we said, one of your worst trials ever on the other, which one would you choose? Yeah, I would choose the gold bar any day, right? And so I had to kind of dive into what this really looks like. Why is it that the scriptures, which are absolutely amazing and teach us everything that we need to know about life and business and everything to succeed, that they would tell us that the trial of our faith is actually more precious than gold? How is that for you in your life? I want you to kind of think about a trial that you've experienced, because we have plenty to choose from, whether it's been recent or small or large or in the past, doesn't matter. I want you to think of that trial and think about how that was much more precious than gold, because we go through things all the time. And if we can look back on it and say, that's why I had that, these are the things I was able to get from it, then it can really help us. In fact, when I was younger, so I didn't come from the best of homes, and I kind of needed to leave Utah, and I moved to New Mexico. And I remember that first night that I moved in with my cousin, she gave me this journal, and one of my prized possessions. I called it my wilderness journal because I felt like I was in the wilderness. I had no idea what in the world I was doing, because this was the first time I was really out there on my own. And I looked at this journal and I said to myself, okay, I am going through incredibly hard trials. In fact, even in that a couple of months after I got that journal, I ended up homeless, living in my blazer in a church parking lot. Like it was hard. It was really, really hard. But the thing is that the Lord taught me how I can use that journal to say, okay, here are the trials that I'm going through. Because it's so easy to look back, 2020 vision, right? Look back and say, which is kind of an interesting thing when you talk about the year 2020 and 2020 vision. But look back and say, okay, what did I learn from that trial? Or what was it that made me stronger about that trial? But if you do it in the moment, woo, that's so much harder, right? And so I just remember that the Lord wanted me to do that in the moment with this journal. So I would write down every single day, like, okay, these are the trials that I'm facing right now, or this is like the big trial that I keep having to face over and over again because I haven't figured out how to, get out of this church parking lot. And so I would write down what are the blessings that are coming from that. And while I'm not at the point where I feel like my trials are gold yet, and you might not be either, I definitely started to see more value than ever before. So no one wants trials at all, but that is part of our growth. How in the world can we know joy if we don't know sadness, right? How can we know success if we don't know failure? And that's so important. That law of opposition is in everything that we do. And so it's really important for us to remember that we can't have the growth unless we have that struggle. Doesn't mean we should seek for the struggle, but there is that law of opposition that is in all things. And trials help you to connect with other people in a stronger way. You know, when I talk about my infertility journey, because I have unexplained infertility and we've tried years and years and years to have a baby with no success, and it's just been heart-wrenching. I can connect with other people in a really strong way. In fact, I've actually looked at that as almost, I don't say the trial is a gift, but the story is a gift, because I can connect with other people. Almost everyone has either has had some kind of infertility issue in their life, or they know someone who has. And so when I go up on stage and I tell my story, that helps me to connect with the audience, and they feel more connected to me. And that took a while for me to realize that actually was a gift. That story was a gift for me to be able to share with other people and to use as that connection. So think about a trial in your life that has actually helped you to connect with other people even more, because you'll be able to find that there are connections because of that. You know, whether it's failing at a business, or whether it's the death of a loved one, there's so many different trials that we go through, and every one of them has purpose. There is purpose in the pain. Another thing is that trials bring us closer to God. You know, those moments where you're on your knees and you are pouring out your whole soul unto God, because you can't stand the pain anymore, or because you feel like you can't go on. Really, really, really important to remember that in life, sometimes I teach my clients this, sometimes we go through life using God as a catastrophic consultant, where we hit our knees and we basically just say, like, Lord, I can't do it anymore, please help me, right? But the thing is that if we can partner with him every step of the way, we won't have those moments as much. But think about those moments where you get to just come to your Heavenly Father, pour out your whole soul. And even though there's so much pain, there's so much frustration, there's so much chaos, when you pour out your whole soul like that, don't you feel that incredible peace that comes? That peace that surpasseth all understanding comes from those moments where we truly connect with our God. And so I'm kind of grateful, knock on wood, for those moments where I can just come to him and give it all, leave it all on the altar, or put it all at his feet, where I can have that really strong connection with the Lord, and to know that he is there for me personally. Those trials bring those incredible moments. Oh, I love that. And, you know, there's actually a really interesting story. And I was going to grab my picture that I have up here, but I won't worry about it right now. But I learned in church, and this is going to sound awful, so please don't take it wrong here. But, and this is true about actual shepherds. So you think about the picture that I have is Christ holding a shepherd around his neck. And you guys probably know what picture a sheep around his neck, because he's the good shepherd. And you guys probably know what picture I'm talking about. But it was such an aha moment for me to hear this story where, you know, let's say that you have a bunch of sheep and you're the good shepherd, and you have a sheep that keeps wandering off, right? You are so welcome. Thank you so much for your comment today. So the thing is that sheep keeps wandering off, which oftentimes we do, right? It's really hard to just stay on that straight and narrow path and be perfect. Like we can't even be perfect in this life, but we can absolutely strive for it. So the sheep keeps wandering off from the flock, and it's so important that sheep and all the sheep stay together, right? And so what happens is that the shepherd, the good shepherd, actually breaks the leg of the sheep because it teaches it to rely on the shepherd. And sometimes life feels like that, right? Sometimes we feel like we're getting ahead in our life or our business, and then something comes and knocks us on the leg and like takes us down for a little bit. But in those moments, we get to choose. Are we going to try and be the lone sheep out there, or are we going to turn to the Good Shepherd and really connect with him? The reason why Christ is holding that sheep over his neck is because the sheep can't walk and the shepherd needs to carry it. And I know without a shadow of doubt that when we are feeling broken, and not to say that Christ does this to us or God does this to us, it's just part of life, right? That's those moments where our legs are broken, that's just part of life. But what's amazing is that when we turn to Christ, when we turn to God, we will be held just like that sweet sheep. And we need to learn the shepherd's voice so that we can always be near him. And I think that's amazing. So hopefully you're starting to look at trials a little bit different rather than the, trials, right? Because nobody wants that. Okay, another one is that trials create fire, and fire purifies and consecrates our efforts. Lukewarm does not. And that's such an interesting concept, right? Is that we need to go through that fire to be able to consecrate who we are and the work that we're doing. When we've been through that fire, when we've been through those challenges, then it means so much more when we give our all. Even if our all is like this much, we feel like it's that much compared to everybody else's all, right? But that helps to purify us. It helps to get rid of any of those imperfections that we may have as human beings, as we all do. Just one by one, each one of those trials that we have refines us. It doesn't define us. And I think that that's so important to remember, because that helps us build character to become the person that we want to and need to become that person who deserves and who, I don't even want to say the word deserves, who becomes the goal that we want to become. Isn't that an interesting concept? We think about goals and dreams as doing, but it's actually more becoming. You need to become the millionaire before the paycheck comes, right? And those trials help refine and help us build our character in those moments. So with all of that being said, now we've talked a lot about the benefits of trials, which, never thought I'd say that before, because we definitely have all experienced that. But how can we really be grateful for our trials without like wishing them on us? My husband is very careful about what we pray about. He refuses to pray for patience because he knows that God will give us some kind of trial for patience. So we're going to be really careful about how we do this. We're going to be grateful for the trials that we have without like bringing more on us. So first off is, in order to be able to do this, we need to feel the feelings that we're feeling. I know, a lot of feels there. And what I mean by that is that so many times we just stuff all those feelings down, right? Trials make us frustrated. They bring us into chaos. They hurt. They're sad. Maybe, there's a lot of confusion around them. And we need to acknowledge those feelings. It's okay to have those feelings. And one of the most tender mercies that I have been able to see in my scripture study recently is when Jesus was resurrected. So he was no longer in the tomb, and both Marys went out there to take care of his body after he had been crucified. And they showed up, and he was no longer there. And, the angels had told them to tell the disciples that he had been resurrected. And then Mary came back to the tomb, and she saw Jesus as the gardener. Like, she didn't realize that it was Jesus until that moment, right? And so what happened is in the scripture, and I don't have it written down here. I think it's in Mark is the version that I'm talking about. But anyway, so he says, "Why do you cry?" Well, I mean, obviously he knows why she's crying. He knows how much she's hurting about the pain that she's in because she just watched her master be crucified, and she loved him and loves him. And why would Christ ask Mary why she's crying in that moment? And I had to ask myself that. And I thought, okay, if I was going through this painful journey, right, of infertility, for example, where I had that last 10th IUI that failed for me, which is a fertility treatment, and I was just a wreck, just completely disturbed beyond belief. And Christ came and he asked me, "Why are you crying?" I would be like, duh, you know why I'm crying, right? And especially in this moment at the tomb, why are you crying? But here's the thing, and he even did that with the disciples on the road to Emmaus. There we go. Is why are you sad? Well, he knows why they're sad, but he asks us questions for our benefit, not for his. And in that moment, I believe that he wanted them to feel what they're feeling. He wanted them to express the pain and the sadness. And that is one of the first steps for us to be grateful for the trials that we have, is to express that. Whether that's writing it down in a journal, whether that's telling a friend or a loved one, or taking it to the Lord. But we need to let that out. Because if we just say, "Oh, I'm fine, let's just move on with life," right? Then it's really hard for us to truly be grateful for for the trials that we have, if we haven't acknowledged the pain that we have had in order to be able to even get to that point. And so we need to acknowledge that pain. And I think that Jesus teaches that absolutely perfectly in the Bible. The next thing is we can recognize the good in the moment. The scriptures talk about seek and ye shall find. Well, what are you seeking? Are you seeking the bad because that's all that you can see in that moment? Or if you actually seek for it, you will find it. And so if we seek for those good moments, those silver linings, because they're always there no matter how awful, right? Think about 2020 and all the craziness. And I mean, that's actually the year that I lost my mom. But I can look back and I can find all those amazing moments that happened because of COVID or because of the pandemic or just in the moment in general. So the first thing is really to feel the feels, right? To express how we're feeling about that trial. The second one is to recognize the good in the moment. The third step is realize that where we're trying to control and let go and let God. Right? Is that sometimes, I mean, especially in the fertility journey, like, oh my heavens, I can't tell you how many times I'm just like, you know what, let's just do this and try and just get it over with, right? Or just let's give up completely because this is hopeless. But the thing is that when we try to control and we put our will over God's, that's when we lose. That's when that trial seems like it stretches on forever and a day because we're trying to control the situation. But what is even just one piece of your trial that you can let go and let God? Just let him take over in just one tiny piece of it. It may not be the whole thing, but what can you do to give that over to God? And then the fourth thing is have faith that everything that we go through is for our own good. It really is. And I know that sounds crazy, especially when there's so many chaotic and crazy and sad and terrible things that are happening in this world. But the thing is that everything we go through is for our own good. And it helps to build us to be better people, the people that we want to be. So let's go through those one more time. We've talked about all the benefits of our trials, right? But let's go through those 4 steps and those 4 keys to being grateful for our trials. That first one is feel the feels, right? Just express how you're feeling in that moment about the trial. The second one is recognize the good in the moment. Seek for it. The third is realize that we can't control everything and find even just one piece that we can give up to God and let go of. And then the fourth is have faith that everything we go through is for our good. It's for the person that we want to become. It's for those goals and those dreams. It's all those hills that we need to cross in order to be able to get to that destination that we really want to be at. And I'm thankful, knock on wood, right? I'm thankful for the trials that I have. And then I'll continue to go through because, one, they help me to become a better person. They help me closer to God. They help me to really understand who He is and how to use His amazing love and grace in my life. But the other reason is because, isn't it interesting that almost every single time we go through a crazy trial, somebody else is going through that same thing too, whether it's in that moment or years down the road. And the connection and the ability that we have to help that person is incredible. That is why I'm so grateful for Divinely Driven Results, my business, because I have failed and failed and failed at businesses. I will tell you over and over and over again. But all of those failures, I tell my clients that I've failed almost every single way you can possibly fail in business. But because of that, I now know how to overcome all of those things and help you to avoid those things. So thank you so much for watching here today. If you want to learn more, go to divinelydrivenresults.com. But I want to invite you especially to come join our free Facebook group for Christian women entrepreneurs looking to grow their business in the Lord's way. It's called Faithful Ladypreneurs. So come join us for sure, because we've got some amazing things coming up here in the month of March. I love when it's the beginning of the month because we can talk about all these amazing things that are going on. So first off, next week, I'm going to be surrounded by some amazing mentors of mine, and other speakers, other coaches, and we are going to really dive into some tools that maybe you haven't thought of for your business, such as, have you ever thought of becoming an author? And how is that going to help build your business? Also, what about becoming a speaker? Maybe you feel like you have a message in your heart, but you don't know how that translates to like selling your products or services. Got to be there, guys. That will be March 8th through the 11th, and so Monday through Friday of next week. We're also going to have an expert around websites so that we can help you to give you some really amazing ideas and some things you are not going to want to miss to amplify your website and take it to the next level. And then we have our incredible branding expert who does all of my branding photography. You are going to love her, and she's really going to talk about how to brand using what Christ has taught us. So make sure you register. I will put the link here in the chat so that you can make sure to register for our 5 divine tools to increase your revenue in 5 days event. That will be in Faithful Ladypreneurs, and we'll go live at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time every night except for Friday. We've got our amazing guest from London, and so we want to make sure he's not staying up at crazy amount of time. So it'll be noon on Friday. So you'll get all the details in the links that we will make sure that are put down below. But you can go to www.divinelydrivenresults.com/5 divine tools. And that way you can go ahead and get registered. So we have that coming up. Then we also have another masterclass, biblical business masterclass, where you are going to learn how to really take the Bible and use that in a strategic way to grow your business. Because one of the things we're focusing on in the month of March with Faithful Ladypreneurs is overcoming trials, because that's what we all deal with, right? And one of those trials is life balance, work-life balance. So if you are feeling frustrated about trying to balance your business along with kids or other family responsibilities, you are not going to want to miss the amazing Lita Green Hotness, as she is known, who's going to give us some amazing tips and tools and tricks to be able to start balancing both of those things. So come join us in Faithful Ladypreneurs Facebook group. It is free. free to join, and you'll be really kept in the loop on all these different amazing things that we have going on all the time. Free trainings, amazing community of ladies to help support you every step of the way. And you even get, myself and my advisors to be able to help you overcome some of those blocks and give you the resources you need to grow your business in the Lord's way. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you tune in every single week, Thursday mornings at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time, where you're going to get poured into with biblical success principles galore. All right, guys, we will see you